March 28, 1979. 4 in the morning. A stuck open relief valve inside a brand new reactor in rural Pennsylvania quietly lets the coolant drain out of the core. Within hours, 52% of the uranium fuel has melted. Within days, 140,000 people have fled their homes. Within weeks, a 34-year freeze on new American nuclear construction has begun. That reactor was 3 Mile Island Unit 2. Its twin, Unit 1, kept running next door for another 4 decades. Then, in September 2019, the economics finally caught up. Cheap gas, cheap solar, no carbon price. The owners pulled the plug. They announced the decommissioning. They started the paperwork to seal it forever. 5 years later, on September 20th, 2024, Constellation Energy held a press conference across the Susquehanna River. They announced that 3 Mile Island Unit 1 was coming back. Not as a museum, not as a memorial, as a power plant, for one customer, Microsoft. The industry that built the nuclear is dead narrative is now begging for nuclear. Every single ChatGPT prompt, every Claude query, every Gemini search is now financially tethered to a reactor somewhere in the United States. And the demand is so absurd that even a plant whose name is synonymous with nuclear accident is worth more alive than dead. There's a catch though. The electricity bill arriving in your mailbox next month, yes, yours, is paying for it. And the math is only starting to get ugly. Part 1: How AI ate the grid. For 40 years, the American electricity system sat almost still. From 1990 to 2020, total US power demand grew by less than 12% across 3 full decades. Utilities planned in slow motion. Grid operators rehearsed the same scenarios. Nuclear plants were being retired faster than they were being built because they simply could not compete with fracked natural gas. The story was written. Nuclear would fade. The grid would decarbonize with solar and wind. Everyone knew. Then came the transformer. Not the electrical kind, the AI kind. The neural network architecture that unlocked GPT-3, GPT-4, Claude, Gemini, and the entire generative AI industry. Each new model is 10 times hungrier than the last. Training GPT-4 is estimated to have consumed around 50 gigawatt hours of electricity. A single NVIDIA H100 GPU draws 700 watts. A single training run uses tens of thousands of them, 24 hours a day, for months. Then you have to run the thing in production, at scale, for 1 billion users. So the hyperscalers went hunting for electrons. Quietly at first, then publicly, then frantically. The epicenter is PJM, the grid operator that runs the electricity market for 13 states from Virginia up through New Jersey, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Maryland, and into Illinois. 67 million people live inside that territory, and roughly 70% of the world's internet traffic already flows through data centers in Northern Virginia alone. The data from PJM's last capacity auction is where the story becomes unignorable. Capacity prices. The fee paid to generators just to be available, not even to produce, went from $29 per megawatt day in 2024 to $329 per megawatt day for delivery year 2026-27, then $333 for 2027-28, a factor of 10 jump in 2 years. The total cleared auction cost for 2027-28 hit $16.4 billion, up from $14.7 billion the prior year. PJM's own independent market monitor tagged 40% of that $16 billion as coming from data center load alone. Of that, roughly $6.2 billion relates to data centers that have not yet been built. The grid operator also missed its reliability target. For the first time in a long time, PJM cleared the auction short by 6,625 megawatts. That is roughly the output of 7 large nuclear reactors. Short, in a grid that has 70 million people on it. Virginia is the place where this math arrives first. Dominion Energy, the utility that serves Northern Virginia, is currently forecasting data center peak demand of 9 gigawatts by 2034. The company's long-term resource plan calls for adding 33 gigawatts of new capacity over the next 20 years. Dominion's own filings with the state regulator disclose 70,000 megawatts of new data center interconnection requests sitting in the queue, roughly 3 times the current total load of the entire Virginia system. The number the Dominion CEO himself keeps coming back to in private conversations with bankers and regulators is simpler: 15 gigawatts of firm, new generation by 2030. That is the minimum. And there is no plausible way to build that much gas, wind, solar, or battery storage in 4 years. The only technology that produces 15 gigawatts of reliable baseload power in that time frame is nuclear, which is exactly what the industry spent 40 years telling everyone was finished. Part 2. The reactor comes back from the dead. Pickering, Palisades, Duane Arnold, Indian Point. The list of American reactors shut down between 2013 and 2022 reads like an obituary page. Economics killed them. Gas was cheap. Subsidies for renewables made their margins disappear. The utilities walked away. Now Constellation Energy, the largest nuclear operator in the country, is running an industrial resurrection campaign. The crown jewel is 3 Mile Island Unit 1, 837 megawatts of carbon-free baseload, 20-year power purchase agreement, single customer, Microsoft. The price is not public, but industry estimates put it somewhere between $110 and $150 per megawatt hour, roughly 3 times the average wholesale price in the region. Microsoft is paying a premium that would have been considered commercial suicide 10 years ago, and doing it for 2 decades locked in. The plant has been renamed. It is no longer called 3 Mile Island. It is now the Crane Clean Energy Center, in honor of the late chairman of Exelon, Chris Crane. The rebrand is not subtle. The name 3 Mile Island has a half-life of its own. The original target date was 2028. As of early 2026, Constellation is publicly guiding to grid synchronization in 2027, 1 year ahead of schedule. The Department of Energy awarded a $1 billion federal loan in late 2025 to accelerate the work. Over 500 workers are on site. The cooling systems are being restored. The control room is being modernized. Large components, including main power transformers, are being swapped out. The NRC still has to sign off on the final restart. There is a small but non-zero chance the timeline slips to 2031 because of a grid interconnection queue bottleneck inside PJM itself, which Constellation executives flagged on a recent earnings call. Wall Street did not love that detail. Constellation stock, which had 4x'd from roughly $90 in September 2024 to above $400 in October 2025, fell back to around $275 by early April 2026. Still up 300% from the day of the Microsoft announcement, but the market is now doing the math on execution risk rather than just the headline. The Crane project is only the opening act. Across the Susquehanna River sits the Susquehanna Steam Electric Station, a 2,475 megawatt twin reactor nuclear plant owned 90% by Talon Energy. In March 2024, Talon sold its adjacent data center campus to Amazon Web Services for $650 million. Then, in June 2025, the two companies expanded the deal into a full power purchase agreement. At full contract quantity, Talon will deliver 1,920 megawatts of nuclear electricity to Amazon through 2042. The contract is worth roughly $18 billion over its life. Talon and Amazon also committed to jointly explore building new small modular reactors on the site. Google moved next. In October 2024, it signed an agreement with Kairos Power, a startup building molten fluoride salt reactors, for up to 500 megawatts. First unit online in 2030. The first demonstration plant at Oak Ridge, Tennessee, expected to reach full power in 2027. Meta moved last and moved hardest. In January 2026, Mark Zuckerberg's company announced 3 simultaneous deals totaling 6.6 gigawatts of new nuclear capacity by 2035. 2.8 gigawatts from TerraPower's Natrium reactors, 1.2 gigawatts from Oklo's Aurora powerhouse fast reactor designs sited in Pike County, Ohio, and operational life extensions on 3 existing Vistra nuclear plants in Ohio and Pennsylvania. Then Oracle revealed it had quietly secured building permits for 3 small modular reactors to feed a single 1 gigawatt AI data center. Larry Ellison would not say where. Added together, and in 18 months, the 5 largest American tech companies committed to more new nuclear capacity than the entire country has built in the last 30 years combined. The trade press calls it the nuclear renaissance. The investment banks call it a once-in-a-generation supply shock. The utilities are quietly calling it the only path that arithmetically works. But there is a bill attached to all of this, and the punchline of the entire story lives inside an unremarkable white envelope landing in mailboxes from Richmond to Cleveland to Newark. Because the deals Microsoft and Amazon and Meta signed are not free. Someone has to pay for the grid upgrades, the transmission build-out, the capacity shortfalls, and the premiums the hyperscalers are now paying for firm power. That someone is not Satya Nadella. It is the person opening their residential electric bill. In Virginia, residential customers are expected to pay an additional $135 per year in 2026. In Ohio, the capacity market price increase alone adds roughly $16 per month to the average household bill. In Western Maryland, that figure is closer to $18. One independent analysis of the PJM region estimated household bills will rise on average 15% in 2026 versus the pre-AI data center baseline. By 2028, the same analysis projects an extra $70 per month on the typical family's electricity statement. Removing all data center load from PJM's forecast would cut the capacity payment bill by $9.3 billion. 64% of the entire cost of the auction is directly attributable to the compute demand of a handful of tech giants. That number is not a speculation. It comes from PJM's own internal market monitor, a regulator-appointed watchdog whose job is to police the auction. 67 million ratepayers are quietly paying the tab for the AI boom. It is, mechanically, the largest invisible cross-subsidy in American energy policy. Microsoft's new Azure revenue line is running on the transmission infrastructure your grandmother paid for. Part 3. The SMR wave, the stocks,